Yeah, well, Scott, we've been, kind of discussing the same thing all year. The primary trend remains to the downside for the major U.S. averages, and we've seen this kind of rotation. I wouldn't even call it a rotation, but obviously tech and high growth has seen the brunt of the selling. But as you were mentioning with Dan earlier, there's been rotation into some of the energy and healthcare and industrials, and that's kind of kept the market from seeing that kind of high correlation sell-off that typically happens at the end of bear markets.
What does capitulation look like, right? I mean, obviously you think a lot of stuff is going to go down from a lot of different sectors, but what kind of level are the charts telling you we might reach?
Well, from a just high level sense, capitulation is when you see most stocks and sectors, kind of sell off at the same time. And again, we haven't seen a lot of that this year, largely because when the market's gone down in the early part of the year, energy held up well. And again, that's expanded a little bit now. So, one of the things would be, all the sectors kind of getting thrown out together. As far as broad-based levels, look, it's tough to give an exact level, but I think 3,000, 3,100 certainly makes some sense to us. That's the pre-COVID highs on the S&P 500, and we're just seeing more and more evidence that that's where we're headed.
You're also watching a level of 9,800 on the NASDAQ. Do you want to tell our viewers why that number sticks out to you?
Well, if you look at the relative strength of the NASDAQ versus the S&P, that's, broken down to multi-year lows kind of back to that pre-COVID high area. And that's, where we think in absolute terms, the NASDAQ's probably headed as well. Again, you look at some of the big marquee names, which is driving the bus, obviously Tesla today, but Apple looks pretty vulnerable to us as well. And then you're just not seeing, whereas the broad-based market, you are seeing some handoff to some of the other parts of the market. Within tech, you're just not seeing anything step up, whether it's Amazon or Google or Microsoft. They're not necessarily breaking down right now, but they're really not doing much. So that tells us that they probably have another leg lower, which gets you to NASDAQ 9,800.
All right, so let's kick around a couple of names. You just mentioned them, Apple and Tesla, but let's do Apple first. If you said a moment ago, and I'm looking at the stock as I'm asking you this question, you said it still looks vulnerable. It's at 130. How vulnerable?
I mean, look, the thing about our work, primarily we focus on trend following, which means we want to follow the trend until the trend stops working. So that's first and foremost. So, but if we are looking at levels, I mean, again, you look at for some reference points. I believe the pre-COVID highs on Apple, I think, was around $80, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that we go there, but certainly I think something down towards 100 would kind of represent a better indication of capitulation.
What about on Tesla? It's really incredible to watch this all play out as we've discussed at the very top of our program. And here we are some 37 and a half minutes in, and we're doing it again because there's been such a dramatic breakdown. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, Tesla is probably the closest example of getting towards that capitulation that we've seen in large cap tech. We kind of identified 100, 105. If you look at kind of a volume profile, there was a lot of volume traded at that level over the last couple of years, mainly on the upside, on the way up. So 100, 105, you just look at the price action, the volume continues to accelerate on the downside. Right today, I think, was the second highest volume day of the year. So, that's kind of more of an example where volume picks up as price goes down. And by the way, the percentage moves get bigger as the sell-off continues. So we're seeing that in Tesla. But I think 100, 105, and we'll probably see that this week, would represent an area that maybe we could see some stabilization.